Allow me to thank all the teams in partners, organization, and industry who work on this project for these long years. And in particular, I would like to send a special thanks to their families who have supported them all along this long way. And from Plzesk, we are green and go Sentinel-3A.
Well, that's fantastic. I know it's your job to be there, but nevertheless, you look pretty excited.
We are, with the enthusiasm that there is around in Plzesk, you can lift the rocket and place the satellite in the right orbit.
Well, thank you very much for that, Guido Livrini, live from Plzesk Cosmodrome. We've all got our fingers crossed here as we enter into the final few minutes before the official countdown begins. Whilst we see the live images continue from the launcher standing on its launch pad, I'm assisted again by Eurocot's mission manager, Matthias Muck, who knows all the details about the launch, I'm pleased to say. Matthias, now there are just 5 minutes to go, and we are starting to see the images again in a minute of the rocket on its launch pad. The launch service tower has just been retracted, as Guido just told us, and we can see the rocket there standing in a tube. Now, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, that is actually a very particular feature of the rocket launch vehicle. To understand this, one has to know that the rocket launch vehicle is actually derived from an intercontinental ballistic missile, the SS-19. And we have seen earlier in the video when the upper composite was lifted into the tower that there was already a part standing inside the launch tower, and that is actually the part that is inherited from the SS-19. So the SS-19 as a weapon system was constructed in such a way that it could be launched out of a container in which it could be transported basically anywhere, and for strategic reasons then launched out of that container. So the rocket is basically adapting this launch mechanism in order to change the design of these two stages, and we basically put on top the upper stage that carries the satellite, and that makes the rocket. That's why we see the launch vehicle only sitting in the container, and the first time that we actually see rocket completely is when it lifts off out of the container.
Let's have a little look quickly at the clock and see where we're at now. Just under 3 minutes to go. Now, if we look at that rocket, you said already that it was a small rocket, but how large actually is it?
It's almost 30 meters high, a bit more than 29 meters, and it weighs 107 tons. So, yeah, that is small for a launch vehicle, but still quite impressive when you stand next to it at
yes,
the pad.
I'm sure. Now, we are, of course, in the crucial few minutes, but over the last few hours, there's been a lot of activities going on. Can you talk us through what's been happening?
You just showed the countdown, which showed that we have passed the 3 minutes barrier, and that is what we call the transition into the irreversible sequence. That sequence basically means that now we're committed to launch because the automated sequence that has been started about half an hour ago has now triggered activities on board of the launcher that cannot easily be redone. So, for example, it's the pressurization of the fuel tanks, it's the opening of the fuel tanks at some point, and that is the point when you basically, when you can't actually turn back and when you need to launch.
So only 2 minutes to go, and the final sequence is just starting. But are we going to hear this countdown in Russian, do you think?
I'm afraid that we only see the pictures. I hope we see a countdown somewhere from the control room. But I think there's an important point to mention. We saw the countdown, and if I'm not mistaken, the countdown is actually counting down to a reference time that we called end of gyro setting time. That is not the actual liftoff time. So you need to be prepared that another 14 seconds, nothing is happening. Well, after 11 seconds, you will see the ignition of the engine. That is absolutely normal.
We must go over to there now, actually. So let's watch and listen to the launch of ESA's Sentinel-3A from the Plzesk Cosmodrome, and we will talk to you again after the liftoff. Ladies and gentlemen, Sentinel-3A has lifted off into space, and I'm sure you'll agree that was a very impressive flight. Now, of course, we're entering into an exciting early phase of the flight, which is going to be shown here on our screens. And we're going to be starting to see some of the telemetry come through. So do you want to talk us through what we're seeing here, Matthias?
Yeah, we have seen the liftoff and basically the quick disappearance of the launcher into the night sky.